Pokémon Getodaze! I'm wearing this cool Uniqlo Pokémon shirt that has a Charizard on it. The one I wanted was a sick Mewtwo shirt. Put it here, future Spence. It had Mewtwo and I think Mew on it, and it was all black, and it looked sweet, but guess what? It was only made for little children. Current children who would fit into that shirt were literally not alive when Mega Mewtwo became a thing, let alone Mewtwo. So, what's the deal? Why can't I wear a cool Mewtwo shirt? Why am I stuck with the fucking Gen 1er icon? And no Slowpoke shirt? Give me a damn break. A grown man gets mad at clothing made for children! Today, we're going to talk about the Pokemon Game Boy game that you probably didn't play. No, not the excellent Pokemon Pinball. No, not the also excellent Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. That one has a sick soundtrack, look that up. Nor is it the not officially released Pokemon Picross, which was fully translated by fans. If you're into that kind of thing. You know what? There was a surprising amount of non-mainline Pokemon titles on the Game Boy, huh? Right from the start, they were just blasting them out of the proverbial fire hose, huh? Pokemania was something else. No, today we're discussing the Pokemon Trading Card Game, specifically the 1998 or 2000 Game Boy game. It later got a Japan-only sequel. I've never played it. Well, maybe we'll get to that one day. Let's take our time. Not the mobile app that I love ripping packs in, or the baby's first stock market that is the actual cards that no one actually plays anymore. No, there was a full-fledged Pokemon Trading Card RPG on the Game Boy Color, but it could be played on the Game Boy. So it wasn't exclusive to the Color like some games were. You know what? It's weird how I've covered a bunch of different card games in this short period of a revival that I've had so far. I don't really play a lot of card games typically, so I feel like this is skewing the perspective of my 7 viewers into thinking I am inordinately obsessed with card games, but I'm not. I like card games, they're fine, but I'm an RPG man. I'm a turn-based RPG man, okay? No, I don't mind a little card action here and there. Am I right, fellas? So it starts like a regular Pokemon game. You go to your friendly professor's house, and he gives you the option of 3 starter Pokemon decks. He teaches you the basics. You do a really boring match where you do exactly what his assistant tells you to do the whole match, which it's kind of lame, but whatever. There's actually a lot of weird parallels with Pokemon Red and Blue, which makes sense because only the first generation was out at this point. And you swap out the epic rival Blue for the smarmy Ronald. Bro is getting antagonized by a dude named Ronald. Come on, man. What's that about? In Japanese, his name's Rando, like Lando Calrissian. That's a little cooler, I guess. Ronald has the same trajectory as Blue in that he just shows up at the beginning and says you stink on ice, and then he surprise battles you a few times, and if you spank his ass cherry red, they give you promo cards, and if you lose, you just don't get the promo card. You can get them later in the Coliseum at Simmer Down. He even beats the Elite Four parallel right before you do, and it's like a surprise after you beat them that he's there as the champion, which is not creative. Then he gets all sour when you spank him again in card games, so it really is just Blue, but Ronald. I do like he gets a little bit of characterization when you beat him, and then you, after the post game, you can go see him in this guy's house, and he'll be like, you've shown me that Pokeball cards are friggin' sweet, and I've been a little stinker. So, thank you, and please fight me again someday. Goodbye. It's like Silver's arc in Pokemon Gold and Silver and Crystal, but without the arc part. Also, like a regular Pokemon game, you battle 8 leaders who each use a monotype team deck, whatever you want to call it. There's a couple gimmicks with each of the leaders where, like, you have to beat a certain number of other leaders before you go to that one to get their badge, which is, I think that's neat and it makes the world feel more lived in, but it's not super well communicated. In the Psychic Gym, I think his name is Gene, and you want to fight him, and he's standing in the corner talking to himself, and everyone's like, oh, he won't fight you, and you just kind of have to go fight everyone else, which is weird, but I don't know, I don't mind it. That's about the extent of things you do outside of the gyms and their trainers, because the rest of the game is on a neat little world map. Battles are kind of like a scaled down version of the actual card game. At the time, they follow the rules in the most simple way. You have one active Pokemon in battle. Then I think you have 5 on the bench, and you can kind of switch between them using energy, because energy cards are necessary for attacking and retreating and things like that. Some of them have special abilities called Pokemon Power, which can get very OP, but it's essentially, yeah, a scaled down version that works on a Game Boy. Then there's trainer cards that you can use to heal and draw cards and stuff like that, which makes for a nice little system where you have a deck that's all balanced out. Honestly, you can slap your way through the game with just the Squirtle deck. It's super busted, but I think it's more fun to make a few decks of different types so that you can experience all the Pokemans and all their different powers. It's more interesting that way, and then you can really exploit type advantages in this game, even more so probably than in the actual mainline games. There's lots of interesting strategies to try out with all the different monsters, which are just Kanto, since that's when this came out. And the core gameplay loop is so fun that you kind of get sucked into it. When I was playing for this review, I was like, oh, I played this game before, but we'll see if I enjoy it this time around. But within a few matches, I was like, oh yeah, shit, this is pumping the endorphins, serotonin. It was whatever it was pumping in there, bumping. The one annoying thing is you can't have a card in more than one deck if you don't have enough copies of it. So like, if you have 2 Professor Oak cards, and they're both in your water deck, when you make a thunder deck, lightning deck, electric deck, you can't have any Professor Oaks because they're in your water deck, which is weird because you're not using more than one deck at the same time, so it seems dumb. Having a balanced dual type deck is pretty much impossible unless you want to grind for doubles, which takes away some of the customization by making it harder. So if you're going to play this game normally, you're pretty locked into having 1 typing per deck with sporadic trainer cards spread across them, especially with energy, where you only really have enough to make 1 type deck. It's a whole thing. Having normal monsters in your deck can be helpful because most of them use any energy. So if you just have a shit ton of water energies, you have a Squirtle deck, you can throw a little Raticate in there, get spicy, maybe a Lickitung. His card's pretty bad though. There's no real consequences for losing battle, so if you're not a hardcore gamer like me, and you make mistakes and you don't win at everything on your first try, and you're not like based and epic and poke-pilled, you'll be fine playing this game. It's a Pokemon game. It's made for children. Like I think you can do it. I, Ace Bonanza, believe in you. But when you win, well, that's when things get epic. You get a couple booster packs every time you win, which are full of snazzy new cards. It's kind of like a little gacha game, but without the dangerous nurturing of a burgeoning gambling addiction, or the ability to brag to people about which JPEG you got in your game, because, you know, this game is over a quarter of a century old. Damn, game is unk. Here's a cool little Spencer trick. I use it all the time. If you go to the computers at the gym, when you enter a gym and you go to the left, is this mirrored? Is this left? You can go to the computer in the little multiplayer room, and there you can check your emails, which was pretty crazy in 1998/2000. It's all like unnecessary tips about the gym leaders and stuff from like the eggheads, but they attach at least 1 booster pack to every email. So check it frequently, or wait till the end and just open a shit ton of booster packs. I just hit the mic. Open a shit ton of booster packs whenever you want, and then you just get a shit ton of cards. It's an excellent way to indulge your gambling lizard brain. If you start to get the shakes after seeing the 400 gambling app and sports betting app commercials that are going to be throughout this video. Speaking of which, I've got to thank this video's sponsor, Rain.
I put the smack down with my Pokemon and make that Pokemon combat. I put the smack down with my Pokemon and make that Pokemon combat.
There are a few pack types, so like the majority of the game will feel like you're opening cool new cards and packs because you get a lot of new stuff. There's over 200 cards, which is pretty impressive given there was only 150 Pokemon. Plus the game is like 8 to 10 hours long at most, so it's not so long that you really need to have a ton of cards. Don't get me wrong, I love a 100-hour RPG now and then, but having a game that doesn't take as long to beat as it takes me to make a video, it's refreshing now and then. Come on, right? Now, one of the best parts of the game is that Imakuni makes an appearance. Who is the badass Imakuni, you ask? Well, Poke old heads might recognize it. Tomoaki Imakuni is a pretty well-known musician and artist who worked on a lot of early Pokemon stuff. He did songs for the anime. He has a bunch of themed cards in the actual card game, like Imakuni Doduo. He's in the manga. He did a bunch of modeling for like Pokemon Stadium. He did some design for games like Pokemon Rangers and other spin-offs like that. He's very involved in Pokemon. I don't know if he still is, but he was pretty prevalent as like this strange thing that North Americans didn't really get in some early Pokemon stuff. Then he's in this game where you can battle him, and then he just leaves, and he's in the sequel that maybe we'll get to in a future video. Who knows? I could die tomorrow. The majesty of life. Now, half the appeal of Pokemon from the start was trading, so where the heck is that? Simmer down, Rapscallion, I'll tell you. You can trade with some randos in the not really gyms, or you can turn them down and make them all sad. How cruel. Don't you have a human heart? Most of the trades are whatever, but you get cool little Chromo-esque cards of like, I think Electabuzz and stuff like that. So if you want to fill out that Poke card Dex thing, you're gonna have to trade with these schmucks. You can also trade with the enigmatic Mr. Ishihara. He'll trade you some wacky Pikachu cards like Surfing Pikachu and Flying Pikachu, so that once you progress to certain points of the story. But you have to reset the game once you've reached those points for him to offer. Why do I mention this, you ask? Good question. You're my favorite. You're my favorite viewer. You know that? We should have a parasocial friendship. It could start with you subscribing to me and TokenAE. Just, I mean, if you want to. Because you and I, we're tight. You have to reset the game at these progress points for him to offer. I say this because before this video, when I was scripting it after I played the game, I was like, oh, I don't remember Mr. Ishihara being useless. That's weird. Every time I went, he was like, I don't have anything I want to trade. I hadn't played the game in a decade, so I forgot about that. When I was playing on the Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch on the Game Boy app, I just made sweet little save states and never reset the game because I was like, why would I? There's an external save system that's way more flexible and easy to use. So by never resetting the game, I thought he was totally useless. Also, you can use the save state system to be a little cheater if you find this game difficult. I did a little experimenting purely for this video to see how it worked, and it seems like your draws are pretty predetermined no matter how far back you go, and it seems like the deck you pick kind of determines how your opponent plays combined with the cards you get. Coin flips seem predetermined. No matter how many times you go back, it seems like they're determined earlier than you think in order. You can change your plays, but you can't change what you get or your coin flips. So it's like half cheating. Speaking of playing on Switch, apparently the Switch version lets you do cool multiplayer stuff like card pop, which is how you get cards with other players. And you have to connect online, do it with your friends, and that's how you complete your decks, because there's a couple exclusive ones, but I don't have any friends, so alrighty. So you can battle, you can trade. This is pretty much a fully fledged Pokemon RPG. Sure, there's not towns, there's not the technology is amazing guy. I didn't see him, maybe he is, I don't think he is though. Outside of that, it's actually impressive how full-fledged the game is, given it could be a lot less. It could just be a pretty basic duel simulator like a lot of games back then were. Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy games have characters and little story things, but you don't walk around a world like you do in this one. Speaking of which, this game had running before Pokemon introduced it in Gen 3. That's pretty sick. Speaking of weird TCG games on the Game Boy, any of you play the Game Boy Advance Dragon Ball Z collectible card game? Very weird game. My cool Ace Bonanza Too Much Info story for this episode is they had a $2 used copy of that game, my local EB Games, when I was like 10 or 11, and I wanted it so badly, but I was a child. You can't buy things as a child. My mom said that if I scored a goal in my next hockey game, because I played hockey a lot as a kid, because all Canadian children have to do that, whether you want to or not. But if I'd scored a goal in the next game, she'd buy me the $2 Dragon Ball Z collectible card game on the Game Boy Advance. Thus, excited and full of pep and vigor, I stepped onto the ice, ready to earn that GBA cartridge. Shortly after stepping onto the ice in my non-contact, that's an important detail for later, a hockey league game, some large boy crashed into me in the boards and crushed my poor little developing bones. It led to a loud snap. No, not Pokemon snap, you silly biscuit. Turns out I had just broken my right clavicle. There's still a big bump. Zoom in on the bump. The team trainer came out, and when I said I'd heard a snap, he said, "Oh, fuck." Which is what every young boy wants to hear when describing his unknown injury while in a dazed state of shock. Blah, blah, blah. I go to the hospital. I get a sling. Cool free healthcare. God, I love being Canadian, dude. And my mom gets me the Dragon Ball Z collectible card game on Game Boy Advance, because though I didn't score a goal, I did break a bone, which is kinda similar. Too bad the game sucked. Okay, back to the game at hand. The coolest thing about the Pokemon Trading Card Game on Game Boy is probably the visuals. They're pretty remarkable for a Game Boy Color game. There's a surprising amount of different portraits for your opponents for this sort of game. I'm not sure if there's any repeating ones. I was trying to keep an eye out for that, but they all looked pretty distinct, and it went from like Brock-off knockoff to slightly overweight middle-aged man. And it all mimics the style of the anime at the beginning. So everyone's got like big square eyes and very narrow pupils. It's very nostalgic. And the card art is gorgeous, especially if you're like me and have an incredibly overpowering nostalgia for pixel art. It's very cool to see how the devs translated some of the very iconic early cards to this limited Game Boy Color style. It's very cool how they translated that. Music is also super catchy and jazzy and very memorable. Shout out to Ichiro Shimakura, who did the music for this, and then now works on, I think he went on to work on tons of Mario Party games sound and music, and I think he still does it to this day. So, ganbate, Shimakura-san. All right, let's wrap this thing up. I want to go eat eggs. With Pokemon Wind and Waves on the sort of distant horizon, you might have a bit of a hankering for some more Pokemon games. I mean, Pokopia and Pokemon Champions both recently came out, but maybe you don't have a Switch 2. Maybe you don't have an interest in fighting sweaty folks online. I would just beat you anyway. Kind of like the best Slowking player on Pokemon Champions right now, so if you see Ace Bonanza, watch it fucking back. But if you want some Mon action and you don't have a Switch 2 or want to play Pokopia or Pokemon Champions, then play Digimon Story Time Stranger. Sorry, this is a Pokemon video. I'm a big Digimon head. The very first awful video on this channel is Digimon. Or, I mean, if you don't want to do that, what's wrong with you? It was my game of the year last year. Excellent RPG. Go play it. You could also play the Pokemon Trading Card Game on the Game Boy. That's too much game. It's a lot of fun, and it isn't talked about that much. The sequel even less so, because it didn't come here. But I highly recommend it, and again, it's not long, so it's a very convenient short game that you can really fit in there. It's on the Nintendo Switch Game Boy app if you have Nintendo Switch Online. The cartridges aren't that expensive on eBay until the Ace Bonanza bump. Even if you don't care about the actual trading card game in real life, I would say to try this game out. Because then you can call fans of Pokemon who haven't played it LARPers online. Just like everyone else does in comment sections nowadays. Isn't that what gaming's all about? A false sense of superiority over others who like the same things as you. People you'll never meet in internet comment sections, who you can proclaim to be a better fan than? Well, I think it is, and I know best, because I'm Ace Bonanza. Now be gone from me, you goofy goobers. I've better things to do than babysit the YouTube Kids app. After another thrilling video recording, Ace Bonanza goes to move on to the next video. But what he gained through the creation of this one was more valuable than CPM and money. No, it was fun and new friends. Who knows what the next video will be? We all know it'll be one to remember.